community.
Hello and welcome to the Firehouse on WRHU 88.7. I am your host, Chris Moses, and today, sitting with me in the Firehouse is James Hickman. How are you doing today?
Good morning. Doing great. Thank you.
Great. So listen, I know who you are, but the audience doesn't. So if you can tell them who you are, tell them what department you're in, what company, also tell them how long you've been in, and then we'll kind of go into your uniform that you got on now.
Okay.
But first, let's talk about that.
So currently, I'm the assistant chief fire marshal with the Nassau County Fire Marshal's Office.
Okay.
I'm with the Floral Park Fire Department.
Okay.
I've been with the Floral Park Fire Department since 1983. Started with engine company number 2, Reliance Engine, and then I
company. There
Yep.
you go.
There you go. And then I moved over to the rescue company, Floral Park Rescue.
Okay. So we got to start. I want to know, I always ask in the beginning, what makes a person want to go into the fire department, right? So I know in your bio, you started in your volunteer services in 1977 in North Carolina.
Yes, I was living in North Carolina back in 77.
You got to tell us about that, because a lot of our listeners are from New York, so they don't know how is that in North Carolina. So let's speak on that a little.
So back in the 70s, it was a very different world.
Definitely.
Northwoods Fire Department. It was a small rural fire department outside of a town called Lumberton, North Carolina. There were maybe, 20 of us or so. Not much money at all. Nothing like we see these days. I can remember us having what they called a turkey shoot. It was a fundraiser, okay. And between that and passing the hat to buy our first Scott air pack.
Wow.
We only had one.
So you had to get someone else had talked about that on the show. It was like whoever got on the rig first got the Scott pack.
Yeah, we didn't have Scott packs, air packs when I started. But like I say, I can remember us having fundraisers to raise the money to get our first pack. I can remember us getting a couple of used vehicles.
Okay. Chiefs vehicles?
No Chiefs vehicles. There was no Chiefs vehicles. No, fire trucks. And working them out to make them work for us. And like I say, it was a rural community. Fire departments were very tight. The county had 23 fire departments in it, and we would rotate from month to month, each different fire department. It was a lot of fun. Each different fire department would host everybody else for that month, and we would go there for training. And each fire department who hosted, they would feed us.
Okay.
And each fire department was known for what their food was.
Wow.
This one fire department, you'd see them out the week before. They'd all be out fishing, and we'd have a fish fry.
Wow.
Another fire department would do chicken. We always did what was called...
I was going to ask, what was yours?
Ours was called chicken and sausage bog. It was
like a smorgasbord of chicken?
No, well, they cooked it both ways and then they mixed it. They did the chicken, they did the sausage, and it was all chicken and rice or sausage and rice, and then they mixed it. You could have both together.
Okay.
And that's what Northwoods was famous for.
What it was.
And it was great. And then every Christmas we would go to, I forget where, and somebody would host a Christmas get-together.
Wow.
But yeah, it was a lot of fun. We were very tight. Of course, we were all very young. But we had a lot of fun.
You had a lot of fun.
We had a lot of fun.
So now we leave North Carolina, we come to New York,
mm-hmm.
and then you join where?
I joined Floral Park Fire Department.
Okay.
I was originally from Floral Park.
Okay.
So I was born in Floral Park. We moved to North Carolina in the 70s. My dad, the company my dad worked for, moved down there, and he said, we got to go. So we went. But I came back. I had family in the Floral Park Fire Department. And so I joined the fire department as soon as I could. I stayed there. I was an EMT already from North Carolina.
Okay. And that was able to transfer over
Nope.
no problem?
No.
Oh,
I had to take the class over again.
Okay, I had to take everything.
Yep. But that was okay.
It was an easy class because you already knew.
Well, it was. And of course, back then it was, back then it was an 80-hour class.
Okay.
It's totally different these days. Mm-hmm. But it was an 80-hour class. So I stayed in the engine company for a couple of years, and then I went over to the rescue company. They kind of wooed me over because I was already an EMT.
So it was like they want you over there.
Yeah, and then I became an back then it was an EMT CC, and then it changed to AEMT. It was all the same thing, but I was that for the next 20 plus years. I just dropped it maybe 10 years ago because I don't practice it anymore.
Okay.
But I still maintain EMT because I have to be an EMT for the Fire Marshal's Office.
Okay, so you have to. Okay.
Yep.
So just overall, North Carolina, New York, you still stayed with the volunteer services. What made you want to even join the volunteer services? What made you want to do this?
I think it was my family connection that I when I was young, my brother-in-law was in the Floral Park Fire Department.
Okay.
So he would take me up to see the trucks and see the guys, meet the guys, and then some of the fellas in the engine company were city firemen, and different times back then we'd go in on a Saturday and spend the day with them. And in the city fire department, it was the Harlem Fire Factory.
Okay.
It was a big, busy house back then, and we'd get to go spend the day with them and eat with them, and the camaraderie.
Okay.
Camaraderie was always key, and it was just like, yeah, this is for me.
Okay.
And I always liked volunteering. I volunteered at church. I volunteered at the fire department.
Volunteerism has always been in your
Yeah, I enjoy it. Yeah.
All right, so now we got to transition into what you do now, right? So,
Yep.
Of course, you're still in Floral
Park, yeah.
Right? And what ranks have you held in Floral Park?
First lieutenant and second lieutenant.
First lieutenant.
And it was always, we don't have anybody else to run. Can you run? I'm like, well, if you don't have anybody else to run,
I'll do it.
I'll fill it in. But then somebody else wanted to run for captain. It's all yours. Have fun. I don't need that aggravation.
I can imagine. So, in a whole, how many years has it been? If you had to put a number, talk to me.
Well,
talk to me, James.
I don't know. 77.
77. So what are we looking at?
So 77. So that's 23 plus 24, 47 years.
47 years.
Yeah.
I know you have some stories, and we're going to get into those stories. We're going to get into
No,
those stories.
we can't talk about some of those.
Some of those we can't talk about. But we're going to get into some of those stories. But let's talk about you being fire marshal. So what is your actual title with Nassau County?
So today,
Okay.
I'm an assistant chief fire marshal.
All right. Assistant Chief Fire Marshal. Listen, congratulations. That is huge.
That's cool.
That is huge. But I need to know, humble beginnings. Where did you start? What made you want to do, become a fire marshal? Some people go into fire service. What made you say, you know what, I want to go into this avenue of fire service?
I was a printer in Manhattan,
Okay.
financial and legal printing. I was there for maybe 10 years and got laid off.
Wow. Okay.
I got laid. So in 93, February of 93, I got laid off from my job.
Okay.
My wife was pregnant with our first child. We hadn't made the first mortgage payment yet. We just bought a house. We hadn't made the first mortgage payment yet. And I didn't have a job.
Keep going. Yep.
So the fire service, it has always done, and I always tell people, I just told a young lady last week at Staples, she goes, how do you join the fire service? And I got excited about it. The fire service has always been a family, and a family that takes care of each other unbelievably. So when I got laid off in February of 93 and I didn't have a job, the fire service, the family of the fire service connected me with work every day for the next, whatever it was, 7 months or so, until I started with the Firecom. I started in Firecom.
Okay.
I had work someplace 7 days a week, and we never missed a mortgage payment. So I carried caskets for a guy who had a funeral home. I drove limos for another guy who had a limo company. I cleaned out houses. I painted houses. I painted garages. Whatever anybody offered me, I was like, thank you. And I did it.
And that is
that to me, that is the epitome. That's the word. The epitome of what the fire service was, I hope still is, and should be. We take care of each other. It's a family.
I love it. And just for our listeners, he is right. That is the epitome. We take care of each other. It's funny, really quick, I've had the same story where I was a correction officer for a while.
Okay.
And I decided to leave. And during that transition, I had nothing. I reached out to my brothers. Shout out to Commissioner Anthony LeBron.
Oh, I know. Chief LeBron.
Troy Harris. I was working at ShopRite. I was doing the parties over at the Firehouse. They took care of me to make sure that, listen, he has a mortgage, he has this, we'll take care of it.
Yep.
And that's what I love about the fire department. They will always take care of, we always take care of our own.
Yes.
But go ahead, keep going. So you left there. You got laid off. Then you were working little odd and ends jobs. Then Firecom comes up. Tell us how.
So the opportunity, they were looking to hire at Firecom, and they wanted a provisional appointment.
Okay.
So I knew people, and I went for the interview, and thank God they hired me. Me and one other guy, we got hired. I was operator 48 at Firecom. And I worked there for a few years. Now, I started there provisionally.
So when you say, just quick for the listeners and for myself, when you say operator 48, you're the 48th operator.
I don't know that I was the.
What made you?
It was shield number. It was shield number. It's what they gave me.
It was what they gave you. Okay.
Yeah, it's what they gave me.
Okay, I thought maybe it was okay.
Yeah, no. That's what they gave me. I was operator 48, and so I started provisionally, and then I took the test, the civil service test.
Okay.
Back then, provisional. You had, as long as you passed the test, they would keep you on.
Okay.
It's a little different today, but back then, as long as you passed the test. So I had my job at Firecom.
Okay.
Same day I took the test for Firecom, I also took the fire marshal's test.
Okay.
Civil service test. And then so that was 93, 1995, I moved over to the fire marshal's office and been there ever since.
So let's talk about the transition, because we started in the fire marshal office as general inspector, right?
So you started, yeah.
So how does that?
So you start off, you go.
Well, let's back up really quick, just for the listeners. You said to become a fire marshal, it's an exam, right?
Yes.
So for everyone, if they want to become a fire marshal, and what's the difference from fire marshal to fire inspector?
Same
thing.
Same thing. Fire. Well, the title back when I joined, the title was fire inspector.
Okay.
Today, the title is fire marshal.
Okay.
So to take the test, to be eligible to take the test for civil service, it was always 5 years of experience, and along the theme of our recruitment and retention, we were able to lower it this last year to 3 years of service. Because we wanted
this is service as a firefighter?
Volunteer firefighter in Nassau County.
Okay.
You have to have 3 years of experience of service as a volunteer firefighter in Nassau County to take the test.
Okay.
Back then it was 5. And so again, it was different. We had to have some hazmat training. I think there still might be a hazmat, like a awareness thing that you have to do to take the test. And then, you take the test and you got to be civil service, you got to be reachable, you got to go for an interview. And it's a very interesting, nerve-wracking event for the interview back then and still today. When you get called for that interview, you go and you sit before the entire Nassau County Fire Commission.
Oh, wow.
So it's a room full of people. There's 9.
You're just sitting there by yourself.
And you sit there and they're like, okay. And then they go around the room and whoever wants to ask you a question asks you questions, and then they decide on who they're gonna pick to fill a position.
How many times does the test come out?
The test typically comes out once every 4 years.
Okay.
Although they're trying. So, for instance, Firecom just had a test last year, and those results are just coming out now because it takes forever. But because Firecom, we're trying to up the manpower at Firecom, we're going to try to get tests a little bit more frequently. Just have to request them. You have to request them through New York State Civil Service. Or yeah. I thought I turned that off. I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. That's okay.
And
you never know. That might be duty calling right now.
Yeah.
Make sure.
Sorry. It was.
Okay.
So, where was I?
The test. When
Oh, yeah. So we're trying to increase the manpower at Firecom because the world has changed
Yeah.
and the technology has changed. So we're upping our manpower at Firecom. So we can request the test, and we will request the test.
Okay.
Whether they give it to us or not, yet to be seen. But we're trying to up the manpower there.
Okay. So you will record. So what you said. So every 4 years.
Roughly every
Around
4
there,
years.
Every 4 years. That's when they'll request the test.
Yes.
Okay. So general inspector, and then you moved on to hazmat.
I went into hazmat, yeah.
Okay, so what
Yeah.
made you want to, first of all, make that jump from there to there? Or is that the progression? Is that what happened?
No, they ask you where you would like to be.
Okay.
It doesn't mean anything, but they ask you where you would like to be. And I always liked hazmat.
Okay.
So I had a lot of hazmat classes under my belt from before the Fire Marshal's Office. I took everything out. I enjoyed that work. I enjoyed that process. And so I had taken the classes that the county had offered over the years. And even down in North Carolina, I took some. So I really enjoyed it, and I wanted to go to hazmat. And when the opportunity came, they put me in hazmat. So I stayed in hazmat for several years.
Okay. How was that? I know you got some stories for that.
That was fun.
All right, so listen, let's get into it. I know you got some good stories. What did we say? 40-something years, right?
Yeah.
I know you got some stories for me. So let's get into some of those, because I know hazmat that's a fun place to be.
It's interesting. It's things you see.
It's scary.
So like I go back to North Carolina, and I can remember vividly going out to, it was very common back then, we'd have tobacco barn fires.
Wow.
Because they would hang the tobacco in the barn, and they had propane fires on the ground to heat the barn to help cure the tobacco.
Okay.
So we'd get tobacco barn fires.
What happened?
So we get there, and no, not we, I get there, I pull up in my car, and I'm like standing at the roadside, and I'm like, yep, that's going pretty good.
That barn is going.
And there was like 100-pound cylinder on the side. And I can remember, like I say, vivid. There was a family across the street sitting on their porch watching it. And here I am right at the side of the road, I don't know, maybe 75 feet away from the barn. And the 100-pound propane cylinder exploded. And
the whole house.
It was just
everywhere.
It went, well, not so much shrapnel. I don't want to get dramatic, but it was dramatic. And it went off like a missile, and it scared the crap out of me. And I've never forgotten that. So, and that kind of cemented me enjoying hazmat, believe it or not,
No, yeah.
Yeah. So, but that was, like I say, back in the 70s.
Back then. All right, so
and then we come back here, hazmat.
What stories you got for me now?
I don't know what stories we have. We had a lot of interesting calls. I've been in level A suits over the years.
Okay. So explain that to the listeners. What is a level A suit?
So
I know, but I want them to.
Yeah. So it depends on what you're dealing with. There's turnout gear that offers you a level of protection, and that's thermal protection for the most part. And then if you're working with chemicals, you need different levels of protection. So maybe you're wearing a jumpsuit with a hood. Or maybe you're wearing a jumpsuit with a hood and a mask. Or the top of the game is what's called a level A suit. It's a completely encapsulating suit that you get zipped up inside of with your air mask on, and you're wearing 2 pair of boots and 2 or 3 pair of gloves. It's very difficult to have dexterity. Yeah.
But there ventilation in there or nothing?
No, there's nothing.
So you're just hot.
Yeah, you're hot. And if it's in the summer, so sometimes in the summer, you'll take even in the winter, you'll take a towel in with you.
Okay,
because
you're just drenched.
Well, not only because you're drenched, but because your body's giving off heat, and you got to wipe off the inside of the shield so you can see
because of the steam.
Because of the steam and then perspiration. Yeah,
makes sense.
Yeah. So, but that, like, if you're going into a IDLH, immediately deadly to life and health, gas atmosphere or something along those lines, something that'll kill you real quick.
Any situations you can talk about that have
nothing that sticks out. I mean, some of we had to go for training in that.
Okay.
And they sent us down to Anniston, Alabama. Those are federal trainings.
Okay.
And they put you into a live, deadly atmosphere. And it's, it's all to build confidence and to learn how to do it, and to realize that you can do it. It was, they show you, okay, we're going to take a drop of this stuff, the size that would fit on a penny, not the whole penny, just
a penny.
One drop.
And that's how deadly.
And that's how deadly it is. Yeah.
So just knowing that you're going into that is building your confidence, like you said.
Yes.
Right?
And that's the whole idea that to build your confidence. And it was
and trusting your equipment.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Trust your equipment, trust your meters, because so you're inside this thing, you have no idea what you're feeling, what your body's feeling on what's going on outside you. So you have to learn to have complete trust and confidence in your meters.
To let you know what's going on.
So we've done a few of those jobs here in the county over the years. Yeah.
Wow. That is, I know people are like, what? Amazed at things. I remember in Uniondale, we talked about it on the show. We had a situation over at UPS at one time.
Yep. Yeah.
At UPS, I was actually on scene. The first, I think I was lieutenant then on scene.
Okay.
That was going on, and I remember us going in there searching, and I remember your team coming in, and they said, "Wait, everybody out! This is a hazmat situation," because we were already in there, and we're like, and they're like, "Wait, hold on, everybody out!" And they pulled everybody out, and y'all came in full gear,
yep.
And then they found out what it was. So. Yeah. But I can imagine what that feels like being inside and having to trust on these, not knowing, and that's the key for our listeners of what he said was not knowing what's going on outside of this suit. Right? Yeah. Outside of that. So you got to rely on those meters and rely on them. All right, so General Inspector, hazmat. Then we move over to investigation. What makes you want to go from there? Because you said you love hazmat. So
I did love hazmat.
Okay.
But I also loved investigations. Okay. I loved the idea of using my mind to figure out the puzzle.
Yes. Okay.
And that's where I've been basically for the last 20 years.
Wow. Okay.
I love it. I loved investigations. I still love investigations. Let's figure this out. Let's help. So my mantra with the Fire Marshal's Office has always been that we exist to serve the Nassau County Fire Service.
Okay.
Well, that's what we're there for. Whether it's general inspection and we're making it safe for the firefighters, or hazmat and we're helping out the firefighters, or an investigation where we're going in and figuring out what happened. Okay. Whether it's the run-of-the-mill bedroom fire, whether a person has perished in the fire, or unfortunately a couple of times over the years when a firefighter passed. We want to go in and we want to get the answers
of why this happened.
And what I've told chiefs for years is, you want us there because 5 years down the road and 7 years down the road, when it goes to court, you want us to have documented every single item of what happened there, because that's what we do.
I love it. So, question. I got a couple of questions here. So the first question, what a typical day as a fire marshal that's in the investigation division, what does that look like? What does your day consist of, right? Because I can imagine there's not always something to investigate.
No, there's not always something to investigate.
For firefighters, it's training, it's this, it's that. Is that the same thing? Like, how does it work during a typical day?
So during a typical day, sometimes we do training.
Okay.
Very often we do report writing. There's a lot of report writing. Yeah, so they do a lot of report writing. But we do things. So in investigations, we're fortunate we have 2 canines.
Okay.
They're ATF, alcohol, tobacco, and firearms, trained canines. They're what's called an ADC, accelerant detection canine. And they go out and they sniff for accelerants.
Okay. So this, when you say accelerant, you mean when we're doing the investigation, a fire happens, did someone purposely do this?
Right. So if we suspect it,
smelling for gas,
right,
smelling for something like that. Okay.
So those dogs train every day. That's the only way they live. So that training goes on every day.
It must be amazing for them in the fire. I'm thinking about what it smells like after a fire, for now a dog to come in and not just smell what I smell and to smell the different smells, because all I smell is what the firehouse smells like.
They're phenomenal.
So imagine that and are actually in the structure.
We'll go in. We'll go in, and you'll have and you know what it's like. You could have 12 inches, 18 inches of debris on the floor,
Plus water, the weight of that, the sheetrock, everything's there.
and the dog will come in and go. He'll do his job, and he'll go.
Basically, right there, buddy.
And he's not kidding. He means right there.
Wow.
Because that's the way he's tested. And he will pinpoint it, and he will sit, and he'll point his nose at it and say,
that's it right there.
that's an accelerant right there. So it's our job now.
Now you have to test it, I guess.
We dig down.
Okay.
We go down to the floor, find out what's there. He shows us again, or she. We have both male and female, and say, it's right there. It's right there. And sit, point within an inch. And then we'll look at it. Sometimes we'll see a pattern. Sometimes when we take all the debris off, sometimes like, oh yeah, I smell it. Yeah. But sometimes we don't smell it. But we take a sample and now it goes to the lab. The dog, or the dogs, their nose is more sensitive than the lab. More sensitive than the lab. But yeah, it's phenomenal.
Now, is that a division as well? Does that come in as a fire
that's
marshal?
under investigations.
So then in investigations, besides what you do, there is I guess a dog unit or canine unit.
There's
fire marshals that have the dog.
There's two investigators within the investigations division that have dogs.
Okay.
So they're part of the they're investigators, and they're part of the investigations division.
Okay. I love that. I can just imagine what that must look like. Now, how long do you stay on scene? Like, is it until the job is done?
Until the job is done.
Until the job is done. So
until the job is done.
You've been on a scene trying to.
Couple of days.
Yeah. All right. So I'm thinking hours.
Usually a couple of hours.
Because it's usually, hey, this happened, electrical, whatever. But
yeah. But
what makes you say, you know what, it could be something else? Like, how does that even start?
That's where the training comes in. That's where the training comes in. You develop an eye for it. I tell people in the fire service, particularly on an ambulance, you get a call and it's a boo-boo call. And the guys on the ambulance are like, this is ridiculous. Why are we here? But yes, sometimes it is ridiculous, but to that person, it could very well be a big emergency to them because they're not used to it. And it's the same way for the investigators when they go to a fire. The fire chief calls and says, excuse me, fire chief calls and says, I need an investigation. I can't figure this one out. And the investigator will come in and he'll be there 5 minutes. He goes, that's it right there, chief. He goes, well, how did you do that? He says, because, and I've related it to a chef.
Okay.
I'm like, you're a chef, right? He goes, yeah. I said, can you pick out a bad piece of fish real quick? He goes, in a heartbeat. I said, it's the same thing. I trained to do this. You trained to do that. I trained to do this. It's just a different skill set, a different way of looking things. One of the things, it's funny, it just comes to me. One of the things when I teach people about fire investigations, I say, it's just like Sesame Street. One of these things is not like the other. One of these things just doesn't belong. And they're like, oh yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah. Oh, looking at it. I love that. So let me ask you another question. What is the difference from, so I know in Uniondale, we got a guy named Chris that's the inspector. Before that, it was Pete Anglem.
I know Pete, yeah.
What is the difference from what you do to what they do? Like, how does that,
So that's a good question. Let's see.
Because
I know Pete was. I think Chris is. So we're similar in the fact that they do fire inspections. Mm-hmm. They are code enforcement officers.
Okay.
We are code enforcement officers.
Okay.
I guess I would say that the biggest difference is we're peace officers. We're armed peace officers.
Okay. All right.
So we have the power of arrest.
Okay.
And we enforce, besides the New York State Building Code and plenty of other referenced codes. We enforce the Nassau County Fire Prevention Ordinance, and we're the only ones that do that. So I think that's probably the biggest division. You know, we go through, you know, we do like the Uniondale inspector. He does what's in his district.
He takes care of that. Yeah.
So whatever he has in that district. So, but we got the whole county. So we got a lot of different things. There's a lot of different plates that come to the table in Nassau County. You know, and that's why we have different divisions. We have the Investigations Division. We have the Hazmat Division. We have the General Inspection Division. We have the Industrial Division. And we have the Special Facilities Division and License and Permit Division.
So industrial and special. Well,
okay, so general inspection does mercantiles, public assemblies, restaurants, that type of thing. Industrial does factories, manufacturing, gas stations, propane enforcement, oil depots, food trucks. Food trucks now, yeah.
Right, so now
food trucks. We do food trucks now too. So that's industrial. They do other things too. Industrial special facilities. Special facilities. Years ago, we always used to say special facilities inspects places that people don't want to be.
Okay. Example.
Hospitals.
Okay.
Jails.
Okay. All right.
Schools.
Okay.
Nursing homes. Those type of things.
Places, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then license and permit does. There's countless permits and licenses in the county, along with now a lot of trades. Like if you handle propane in Nassau County, you have to have a certificate of fitness issued by the fire marshal. So you have to show a proficiency. You have to take a test. So even the guy there's different levels, but the guy who's handing you the exchange tank at Home Depot.
Yep. I was going to ask about that.
He has to have
city for us
right.
That's where everyone goes.
He has to have a certificate of fitness issued by the fire marshal that shows he's competent and knows what he's dealing with.
Yeah, because they just to bring that up, they won't give you a certain amount. You can go there and they'll say you can only have one or two.
Right. So
is that part of
that's part of it? Right.
That's what they're
because a non-permitted vehicle, you know, your SUV that you go to pick it up.
Yeah.
Is only allowed to have so much propane in it,
yeah,
and only
like 2 or something like that.
2 or 3.
2 or 3.
Yeah, 3. And only you can't put a 100-pound cylinder in the back of the station wagon in your Corolla. Some people would try,
but that's his job to.
But that's his job.
Can do this,
right? Yeah. And he's supposed to dunk it and test for leaks.
I've seen that. Dunk it in the water.
And he's supposed to weigh it and make sure it's not overfilled.
Okay.
So like Tent City, I think he still fills them there, right?
Yes.
So he's supposed to know, how much can he put?
Yeah, watch them. They have a whole thing.
Yeah, how much can he put in that tank?
Yeah.
And he
tests to make sure it works. He's told me before, this one's too old. There's a date on
Yep.
So you gotta go.
He knows what he's talking about. Yep.
Okay. All right. So that's all of what I love that. So let me talk about your title now. Assistant
Chief Fire Marshal. Yeah.
Assistant Chief. How does that differ from all of the things that you've done now? Because now I guess you're up there now.
A lot of administrative work.
A lot of administrative work.
Yeah, a lot of administrative work. I still maintain my my certificate or my ability to conduct fire investigations. I have to do that annually with the state of New York.
Okay.
Like I still have to be an EMT. Mm-hmm. I still have to be a code enforcement officer, and I still maintain my credentials as a fire investigator.
Okay.
But beyond that, and I go to fires, but beyond that, I do a lot of administrative work.
Do you guys?
And you know what? That's okay now because I'm getting older.
Yeah.
And hazmat, particularly hazmat. Hazmat works round the clock, so it's 12-hour tours going back and forth each week.
Wow.
So that takes its toll on you physically. Investigations, you get a duty week about once a month or every 5 weeks. And you're on call overnight, every night for whatever they need. So all these things. So it was a nice not logical. It was a nice thing, progression
to kind of,
as I get a little bit older, to not have to have such physical demands on me.
question. Do you all, and I remember years ago, and I actually took it, the assistant fire inspector
Yep,
class.
yeah,
Do you
yeah.
still do that?
Absolutely, we still
All
do
right,
that.
you get a
Yeah.
little card. I remember
Yeah.
I got it. I was excited. So they still do that.
Yep, they still
All
do. Yeah.
So that's a way for the volunteers, any volunteers that are listening, to kind of step in and kind of see what you do from there. Because I remember I learned so much from that.
Yeah, it's a great class.
Besides our regular classes of hazmat and all of that, but that is like another class to take, and then you
Yeah.
actually become assistant fire inspector.
Yeah, it's a
So-
great class, and they still offer
And
it.
they still offer it.
Yeah, once a year, sometimes twice a year, depending upon the demand.
Okay. Of how many people want
Yeah.
to take it. All right, so I got some more questions for you.
Okay.
This has been amazing because you literally started in North Carolina with volunteer, and look at where you are now as assistant chief, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I kind of answered the question, but I would like you to answer the question. Is, how has being a volunteer like changed your life, or how has it made you who you are now?
Wow, it's changed everything. The way you look at life, the experiences, what you're exposed to. I met my wife at the Firehouse.
There you go. Look at
You know?
that. How long you been married?
31 years.
31 years. Shout out to Mrs.
30,
Hickman.
31, 30, 32 years. 32 years.
All right, don't get home again.
Yeah, I know. 32
She'll
years.
be like, how did you know?
32 years.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So
Well, yeah, go ahead.
she was in
It changed your life.
the rescue company. I met her there.
Okay.
Wouldn't trade a minute of it.
Okay.
How has it changed? You get exposed to things. You experience things. You see people at their worst,
Mm-hmm.
and you see people at their best, and everything in between. It helps to form you, the person you experience. All of our experiences, they just serve to create the person that we are today. We are not the person we were yesterday,
No, you're right.
and we'll change again
You weren't
tomorrow.
The same guy that was at that barn fire.
Right?
That's right.
No.
I love that. All right, so I don't know if you've watched the show, but we also play a game called the Flashover.
Okay.
The game called the Flashover. So, Chief, tell us what a flashover is.
A flashover is when the contents of a room
Mm-hmm.
reach the temperature where everything is going to flash over, ignite
Quick.
simultaneously.
Same time, really quick, and that's the premise of this game show. It is really quick. I will give you something like Android, Apple. You got to tell me which one you like. But we're gonna do TV shows.
Uh-oh.
We're gonna do TV shows.
I hope you
Now-
know old TV shows.
No, they're the new ones, and if you don't know it, you just say,
Yeah.
I don't know, right? It's funny because I was always saying, should I change the TV shows? But our listeners are like, no, they want to know what each person thinks about these shows. So these are
Okay.
some pivotal shows, right? So, Chief, are you ready for the flashover?
Bring it on.
Let's go. All right, so here we go. Chicago Fire Rescue Me.
Never saw it.
Rescue Me Third Watch.
Never saw it.
I know you've seen this one, though. Backdraft Ladder 49.
The original movie?
The movies.
Yeah, I
Which
saw
one would
those.
you pick?
Backdraft
Ladder
or
49.
49. Backdraft.
Backdraft. And then the most important question, don't worry about the other ones, engine or truck, Chief? Let's go.
Engine.
Engine all the way. Boom. There we go.
I've always been an engine man.
Put the wet stuff on the red stuff.
Yeah.
I love it. So let me ask you a question talking about the TV shows and the movies. You obviously saw Backdraft, right? Now, what was the inspector's name in
Not a clue.
Backdraft? But
That's
if
a
you
long
saw the
time ago.
movie, is that what you do? Thinking about Backdraft, he went in after and he was talking about how he loves fire and it's got its own life and
Yes and no.
okay.
So even for me, life has evolved over the years as an investigator.
Okay.
So when I started as an investigator, you had to prove things to this degree, a degree.
Okay.
Today, and I go back and I have to read things and learn things new all the time,
Yep.
because today's investigators have to prove things entirely differently and to a much higher degree. I used to be able to say we would come to a certain point and what we would call would be a leap of faith. This is many years ago. If 1 and 2, if 1, 2, 3, and 4 are there, well, then the next logical number is 5.
Yeah.
But we can't do that anymore. It all has to be there, and
why it's going to be
each
5.
individual piece. Yes, yeah. So it's
Not
changed.
Just the fact that it's going to be 5.
So when I started, there was in New York State, there was a level 1 and a level 2 investigator.
Okay.
So I became a level 1, and then I went on and I became a level 2. They don't have that anymore. It's all level 2 investigators. There's no such thing as a level 1 investigator anymore. So everything, just like the fire service, just like hazmat, just like everything, it all evolves. And, people like, change. I hate change. Change is inevitable.
And it's good.
And it's good. There's so much more to read today. There's so much. So, and I show the guys at work this. So in 77, we got a little book from an insurance company about fire investigations. And it was a pamphlet smaller than my iPhone, okay? And maybe had 15 pages in it. So we move ahead. In 82, that same book, which I have both issues, is like 25, 30 pages.
Okay. Learning more.
Then we come into NFPA standards, and is NFPA 921, which is the guideline for fire investigations. The early version of that is maybe 80 pages. The new version that I just bought last month is 600 pages.
Wow. Because there's so much more.
There's so much more.
And this is what they're learning.
Yes.
So that's why that standard is now up higher. It's a lot more.
So I can still walk into a fire, and it just happened 4th of July.
Okay.
4th of July, we were very, very busy.
I can imagine that. That's probably one of the busiest.
We had
times.
7 working fires that day, and 7 investigations. And we were running around here, there, and everywhere, and we were short, and we got one, and I said, I'll take it. So I went to the fire and followed my normal course of business, because you have to do things the same way all the time. And I did that. And I walked around, checked things out and eliminated this and eliminated that. And then once I walked into the room of origin, I'm like, there it is, got it.
It is.
But that doesn't count anymore.
Yeah. You have to now prove that there it is, you got it.
Right. I can say, and by that time there were 2 other investigators who came two modern day investigators who came, and then they tore it apart and they looked at all, pulled it. But for me, it's like, got it. It's right there.
Right there.
I'm like, let me check the rest of the room. Okay, that's good. No, it's not there. It's not there. It's not. That's it. Mm-hmm. But now they have so much more to document and prove. It's evolved.
But that's good.
It is.
Good,
Absolutely,
right?
it's good.
It's good. That change is actually good. So
Yeah.
I love that. I love that.
So I taught at the Fire Academy years ago, and all of that has changed too, because they teach so much more today. It's just great.
And you taught hazmat, or would you teach at?
I taught fire.
You taught.
I was a second deputy chief at the Fire Academy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So let's talk about that a little bit. What made you want to go into that?
Oh, it was work on the side. Yeah, I enjoyed it. Yeah, side work, and I enjoyed it. Yeah,
Okay.
I enjoy teaching.
Okay. We had Charlie Hendry here.
Oh, yeah, Charlie's a great guy. I love Charlie.
Great. Oh, man.
And he's a great teacher.
Oh, amazing.
He's a great, 3 things. He's a great firefighter.
Yes.
He's a phenomenal teacher.
Mm-hmm.
And he has phenomenal experience.
Yep.
But it's one thing, you need different skill sets. Mm-hmm. It's one thing to be able to know what you're doing and be good at what you're doing. Mm-hmm. It's a whole different thing to be able to get that message across, especially to young people. Yes. And Charlie is great at that.
Great at that.
Yeah.
I love that. All right. So I got another question for you. And this is more of kind of bringing everything together at this moment. You know what? Before we go there, I got a quick question. What is a common myth you want to debunk about firefighting, or a common myth you want to debunk about being a fire marshal? Common myth that you've heard of that you're like, well, I don't do that. So I'll give you an example.
Okay.
Some people have said, firefighters that sat there said, we don't get cats in trees. That's what some people said. Then I had someone come to say, I didn't get a quack, but I got an iguana. So what is something that you would want to debunk about firefighting, or even about being a fire marshal?
I don't know. It's funny you talk about the cat, and just last week they were talking about cats in a tree, and there was a fire department got sent for a cat stuck in the hood of the car.
Wow. See that? So
And the comment was, well, at least it's not in a tree.
because it's true. Wow. And who gets that out? Like,
I don't know what they did.
yeah, because I'm trying to think about that. Even in that, if that call came in, is that like for Nassau County? Do we call?
They sent the fire department.
I mean, we send the fire department for everything.
Yeah, they sent the fire department.
We were looking at that.
Yeah,
like,
I don't know what kind of myth.
You know,
I don't know. Yeah, it just doesn't come to me right at the moment.
Don't even worry about it. So, just like I said before we went into that, in a whole, if there, is someone listening, and a lot of our listeners are either, they've been in for a while, but a lot of them are just in or thinking about getting in. What is one nugget or one piece of advice you'd want to give that person that's in now and just got in, or is thinking about getting in?
So one thing that just popped into my head, because I was there and I was that SOB, they break the old guy's balls. Excuse me, I'm sorry. My young guys break my shoes all the time.
Okay.
And not saying this about myself, but I used to break the old timer's shoes myself. But you know what? They got knowledge that you can learn from. Yes, things have changed, but they have knowledge that you can learn. And I've always been like the chief who was investigations when I went there, Stevie Wink, great guy, unbelievable knowledgeable. And I used to break his shoes mercilessly about being old, But he's forgotten more about fire investigation
than you've been to.
Right, back then, yeah. It's just listen. Give them a half a chance. Give the old guys a half a chance. Listen to what they have to say, because they screwed it up already. We've already made our mistakes,
and they can pass them on to you.
Learn from them.
And show you. I love that. Chief, am I forgetting anything? Anything that you want to bring up? Anything you want to say before we end here?
No, you know what? 77 to now, it's been a phenomenal ride. I wouldn't trade it. Every bit of it. The ups, the downs. It makes me the person who I am today. Gave me, brought me to my wife. Because I have a family that I would do anything for and wouldn't trade for anything.
Yeah, you said you have 3 kids.
I have 3 daughters.
Any of them going in the fire service?
Nope.
No?
Nope.
Nope. It's not for them.
Maybe they'll change. Maybe they'll think about it. I don't know. They've been taken to the firehouse and they've seen it.
They've seen it all.
All that sort of stuff. But I have 3 little girls. Of course, 6 foot, 6'1", and 6'3".
Okay. Volleyball.
Basketball.
Basketball. Okay.
They all went to college on basketball. But that's my family is the center of my life. But certainly the fire service has afforded me my life, my living, and I wouldn't trade it for anything.
I love that. Chief, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
So much for coming down.
This was awesome.
This was amazing. All right, so we just heard from James Hickman about his life as a firefighter in the Floral Park Department, as well as the Assistant Chief Fire Marshal of Nassau County. I hope you guys enjoyed the conversation. Please like, share, subscribe, do all of those things. I am your host, Chris Moses, and please tune in next week for another great conversation in the Firehouse.